If you've yet to hear the news, Microsoft shocked the gaming community when they announced they would officially be purchasing ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda, for $7.5 billion. What this means is that Xbox and Microsoft now own the rights to games such as the Elder Scrolls franchise, Doom, and Wolfenstein, to name a few. This is a huge accusation, and to no surprise, has many people wondering if these games are now going to be Xbox console exclusive, giving users the ability to play on the Xbox or a PC, but no chance to play it on the PlayStation. However, as we've seen in the past, Xbox doesn't seem as focused on the game exclusives, whereas Sony and PlayStation seem to make their entire brand revolve around games only PlayStation users could play. Microsoft is also a much larger company compared to Sony, which got us thinking, what if Microsoft and Xbox decided to make another shocking purchase? Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, what if Xbox bought PlayStation? How's it going, guys? Welcome back to LBQ. I'm your host once again, Jared Bronstein, and it seems if this were to happen, the console wars would be dead and gone, unless Nintendo challenged them. Before we kick it off, check out the playlist we made for you by clicking the little gray box in the top corner, and stick around to the end of this one to see if your comment got featured. For now, let's get into it. At first glance, the idea of Xbox buying PlayStation seems very unrealistic, but upon realizing how much each company is worth, well, then it becomes a much more realistic question. Sony is valued at about $97 billion, which is impressive, but nowhere near as impressive as Microsoft's $1 trillion value. Yeah, it's like comparing apples to oranges here, guys, and let me tell you, the fact that Microsoft's value makes Sony's $97 billion seem like nothing, well, that should speak volumes in itself. But as I've mentioned in other videos, it doesn't seem that Microsoft necessarily sees Sony as its main competition, as it appears to be competing with the likes of Amazon, Google, and Apple. Sure, there's always going to be the debate of Xbox or PlayStation, but when we're talking about where the company's sights are set, it's the future, not the past. They're working on cloud-based systems, whether it's Project xCloud for the Xbox and Android phones, or Microsoft OneDrive. It's clear that Microsoft is doing what they can to compete with some of the other companies valued at $1 trillion. To be the best, you gotta beat the best. So let's say that Microsoft decides to go ahead and purchase Sony, which of course would include the rights to PlayStation. What does that mean? Well, odds are they wouldn't discontinue the PlayStation. Given the success of the console, you could almost guarantee they would continue producing both the Xbox and PlayStation, and regardless of which one did better in sales, at the end of the day, all the profits would be going to Microsoft. In this sense, the idea of console wars could technically still continue, and even though they're owned by the same company, people may still choose one over the other simply because they can. However, the idea of console exclusive games would likely go out the window. In the past, Xbox boss Phil Spencer has made it clear he's not into the idea of making games exclusive for one console, and he believes in the idea that the more people you can play with, the better. After all, gaming consoles are all about entertainment, and Spencer doesn't want to limit the amount of fun you could have by deciding which friends you can and can't play with, depending on which consoles they own. But as we know, Sony is much more than just the producer of PlayStation. They create all kinds of electronics, from TVs to cell phones, smartwatches, and of course video games. They also have Sony Pictures Entertainment, which is the parent company to Sony Animation Studios, and Columbia Pictures, with the latter being responsible for pretty much every movie that isn't Warner Brothers. An accusation this big would shake up the entertainment industry as a whole, as it seems the gaming, home entertainment, and film and TV industry would see an immediate impact. Of course, our day-to-day lives likely wouldn't be changed that drastically, but at the same time, it seems we would be headed for a monopoly of sorts with not much competition left, at least in the gaming world. Now, this could be seen as a win for some, as console exclusives would almost certainly be a thing of the past. In fact, it's likely that every game finds a way to become cross-console compatible, which could potentially put an end to either the Xbox or PlayStation, assuming one does significantly better than the other regarding sales and just overall. Odds are the Xbox Game Pass would be renamed to the Microsoft Game Pass, and virtually all Microsoft and Sony games, exclusive or not, would be available to play on either console and even PC. This would also mean that any Sony product would almost certainly be loaded with Microsoft software, and as a whole, the company would continue to see the rapid growth it's been able to achieve over the years. Odds are the film and TV industry would also see a huge uptick in movies and shows based on video games as a whole, specific characters from games, or both. There were talks of a Halo movie, but that never came to fruition. Currently, it's believed a Halo TV show is in production and will be released in 2021, but it's unclear how the pandemic, which virtually shut down all film and TV sets for months, will affect this one specifically. But given that they've already shown interest in creating films or shows about one of their flagship games, and Sony, who not only has the movie studio, but is also expecting to make films and TV shows based on their games, such as Uncharted, which is a production, well, again, this could be seen as a great move, for me personally at least, because as an actor, it'd be absolutely phenomenal to know that this new merger would lead to dozens and dozens of new productions being produced. And as a fan of the games in general, well, that would also be cool. However, a deal between Microsoft and Sony couldn't just happen overnight. First things first, they'd have to be willing to sell, which I really don't see why they would want to. But even if somehow Bill Gates was able to convince the bigwigs over at Sony that selling to him would be in their best interest, there are international laws that would likely prevent this from happening. Microsoft is a massive corporation located in the United States, and although Sony does have headquarters in the US, They're based out of Japan. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the legalities are regarding the accusation of a business overseas, but as we can clearly see with the whole TikTok, Walmart, Microsoft, Oracle fiasco that's still playing out, it definitely isn't an easy process. Obviously, TikTok and Sony are two very different situations, as one is seen as a national threat and the other isn't whatsoever. Still, aside from international laws, there are definitely laws within the United States alone that would likely prevent such a large accusation from happening, simply due to the fact that these two companies joining forces would monopolize not only the gaming industry, but the tech world in general. Of course, they would still have tech giants such as Apple, Google, and Amazon to compete with all three companies getting their hand into streaming services as well. But when it comes to gaming, well, it seems Microsoft and Sony are the two at the top. Let's just pretend Nintendo isn't a company for the sake of my last sentence. The bad thing about a monopoly of gaming, tech hardware, and such is that the value of specific items can be determined by said company, who really wouldn't have all that much competition. You guys remember how we all anxiously awaited to find out how much the systems would cost, and both Sony and Microsoft were holding out, seeing which one came first. Then we learned how much the Xbox was going to be priced at, as did Sony, and then the latter revealed how much their next-gen console, the PS5, would be going for. It's possible that Microsoft's pricing had nothing to do with Sony's decision, or everything. In a competitive market such as the gaming market, competition is incredibly important. And if Microsoft didn't have to compete with Sony because they were to buy them, well, there wouldn't be much reason for Microsoft to make decisions regarding anything based on their competition, because they wouldn't have any at all. That is, until another company decides to come along and give Microsoft a serious run for their money. And this brings me to my last point. If Microsoft were to buy Sony, then another company, whether it be Nintendo or a brand new startup who develops a new gaming system, becomes Microsoft's direct competition. It wouldn't be an easy task, as Microsoft has the brand behind them, the years of experience, the trillions of dollars, and now the accusation of Sony. But you could bet that the other company, one way or another, would find a way to tap into the market and ensure that the console wars are once again alive and well. At first, Microsoft wouldn't have much competition, but the same way the PlayStation came out in 1994 and the first Xbox dropped in 2001, yet somehow these two consoles would go on to become direct competitors with one another, well, that's the point I'm making for you. Maybe Elon Musk decides he wants to venture into the tech and gaming world more so than he already has, and creates a console of sorts that directly syncs up with the chips he's trying to implement into our brains. So to wrap this one up, guys, if Xbox bought PlayStation, which really means Microsoft would be acquiring Sony, well, the world as we know it would change, potentially for the better and potentially for the worse. Immediately, we likely wouldn't see much of a difference, aside from some games being available cross-console, but in the long run, it's possible pricing for games and tech hardware and even software will increase. The film and TV industry would likely see a massive influx of productions based on video games, and it's quite possible the console wars transitioned into the film industry, with people comparing Microsoft's new video game flicks to Disney's superhero movies with Marvel. Unfortunately though, it seems innovation as a whole will likely start to decline, as there wouldn't be any real reason or competition for Microsoft to try and beat out their non-existent competitor until one naturally comes around. But who knows how many years or even decades that could take. And that does it for What If Xbox Bought PlayStation. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below, and how you'd feel if the accusation actually did happen. For me personally, being an Xbox guy, I mean, it would be a win. From now, let's do some comment replies from the video. What does Microsoft buying Bethesda mean for the gaming world? So Gary said, "You thought I had run out of ways to make you buy Skyrim, but now that Skyrim is on Game Pass, you'll buy Skyrim every single month, forever." Todd Howard. He's a genius. If you think about it, you're kind of right. Xbox Game Pass, we think it's a great deal. And it is a good deal. But you can pay $80 once for a game forever, or pay $10 a month for the rest of your life. Think about that. Like, if you have Xbox Game Pass for like 3 years, you just spent about $360 on a game. And I'm assuming that you just play the same game over and over again. You know, I guess it really makes sense if you play multiple games. That's the whole point of getting Game Pass, but like, come on. Tay Jabu said, "Let's go Microsoft. They did something good now for those saying we don't have exclusives. Here you go." I don't know for sure though, because like I said, like Phil Spencer's not about the exclusives. He still might, I mean, I don't know for sure, but he still might allow them to create, you know, Elder Scrolls and Doom and stuff for PlayStation. Like, it is possible. I don't know for sure, but Phil Spencer made it very clear he's not about the exclusives. He doesn't really care that much. If anything, he would just do it just to, you know, give PlayStation a slap in the face. So Alex Basha said, "It means competition is going to be truly something." Yeah, but we'll see, because again, like, the fact that you could play Xbox games on your Android phone, that's pretty cool, guys. The only issue is you can't, like, a lot of people have iPhones as well, and you can't do it on an iPhone because, you know, Apple, well, they're just a bunch of pigs themselves, but that's okay, because, you know, we got our Xbox and we got our Android phones, which I don't have, but that's fine still. It will be interesting, though, to see how Sony kind of tries to, really, I think the big play here is the Game Pass. That's the big play, I think, because for PlayStation, it's like, they're charging $70 a game, and those same, like, the same day that a game's available for Xbox, it's gonna be on Game Pass. So you pay $10 a month, you know, a game comes out at $70, pay $10 a month, you can play it right then and there. It's a pretty good deal. I don't know what's gonna happen, guys. It should be interesting. Anyways, guys, that's all for this one. Been your host, Jared Bronstein. Don't worry, Sony and Microsoft are staying separate for forever, probably. I don't think they're ever gonna merge, so nothing to worry about here, guys. Gonna end on that note. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.